Hello and welcome to Tricks of the S-Trade channel. Today is the 28th of July 2017, and in today's feature we have Derek Hough. Now the picture that started all me looking into Derek Hough is the last I think the video I did on Ivan Ego, that 14-year-old, and I just had a quick look and I was like, I don't really know what this person is. I haven't taken a look at him. I'll take a look at him and see what I find. If I find something, then I'll make a video. And surely, and Derek Hough happens to be on the video today. So if it's your first time on our channel, before I go further, I would like you to pause this video right here because and go look for the primer video. I'm going to show you how to look for the primer video in a second, so just bear with me. So here is the primer video right here. Right, if it's your first time on our channel and you haven't watched the primer video, you have to watch the primer video, because if you don't watch the primer video, a lot of these things that I'm saying is not going to make any sense to you. You're going to come back with too many questions, and not like I don't like answering questions, but I would like you to get the answers yourself. So here's the primer video. A primer video will answer most of your pertinent questions. So I advise you that you should watch this primer video. Alright, then also there's a document that's attached to every video that we make. So when you go to the description section of the video, you're gonna find a link. When you click on that link, it's gonna lead you to a document. It's called Male versus Female Visual Differences. If you're solely interested in transvestigation, because even though this channel features a lot of transgenders, the channel is not really about transgenders. But if you're solely interested in transgenders and transvestigations, advise that you have this document. The document is about 44 pages, but I guarantee you will take you 30 minutes or less to go through it. It just has a lot of pictures, and it will show you the visual differences so you can carry out a transvestigation on anybody without asking me if I should transvestigate someone. It's an education channel, and I want you guys to get educated. So if you're solely interested in transvestigation, you have to get this document. All right. Now, another thing I would like to recommend, because this particular video is besides having the feature of Derek Hough on it, we're going to talk about the myth of whiteness part 2. All right. Now, I had started talking about the myth of whiteness, sorry, on the Michelle Obama video. So that's one of the videos you have to watch before you can continue watching this particular video, so you could understand a lot of the things that I'm saying. This is the myth of whiteness part 2, because I won't be going to like too much details of what I'm trying to explain on this particular video, because I expect that you would have watched the myth of whiteness part 1 before you watch the myth of whiteness part 2 that is on that Derek Hough's on now right now. So also you can also watch the Shakira video. It will help explain, because I think on the myth of whiteness part 1 I do say that you have to watch the Shakira video, sorry, because I have a lot of explanations of maybe definitions of things that you would have to understand before you can understand everything else that I'm saying along with it. So you have to watch the Shakira video as well. Now, with that said, before I get into the video properly, as I usually say, I like to put out some warnings, because the first warning is that this video is gonna be very, very long. It might take 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but it's gonna be a long video. So if you can't sit through a long video, please don't watch this video. You should just pause and exit right here. Now, the second warning I'm gonna put up is that if you're racist, because I've defined the meaning of racism on the Shakira video, which I expect that you're gonna watch before you watch this video, and the meaning of prejudice. All right, so if you're racist, this is not the video for you. Pause the video right here, quit, and go, because I don't want you coming back and asking too many questions and saying stuff, because I've put out a warning. I'm not going to answer any comments that are related to the warning that I've just put up. So if you want to sit through the video, you can sit through a long video, that's fine. If you're not racist, that's fine. But if you are, just pause. Don't waste your time and just quit. Now, the other warning is that there are channel rules still in effect. Before you leave a comment about a suspected transgender, there is no name calling or mudslinging someone's name. You have to supply facts, and those facts have to be centered about the female skeletal structure, which is designed to give birth, because a woman is designed to give birth. Her hips are below her crotch. She has an arch in her back. A female has a wide pubic arch. The pelvis is tilted forward. So all this is designed to carry children. So if your comments don't start with that when you're trying to label someone as transgender, because you just can't say someone is a transgender. You have to supply the facts and the evidence that make you say that someone is a transgender, and you have to supply the links and pictures or videos centered about the female skeletal structure that I just talked about, and say this is the reason why you label this someone as transgender. If your comments start with someone's a transgender, or someone has long arms, Adonis belts, the skull looks funny, the jawline is too square, and all those crazy sort of comments that a lot of YouTube channels have been faking people to be transgenders with, your comment's gonna be deleted, or you're gonna be blocked from making any other comments on this channel. So those are the warnings I have to let you know before you continue watching this video. So I'm not going to go into too much details because it's a long video and talk about the same things that I usually do. But as usual, we're not against transgenders. That's number one. And secondly, the Vatican hasn't changed. They're the one responsible for transgenders and for everything else that's happening in your world that's organized. All right. So you guys know that. So if you're through with all the warnings and you can sit through a long video and you're not racist, then you're welcome. So I'm gonna start off with a few things that I just want you guys to note. Then I'll dive in and lay a foundation for the myth of whiteness. Then after that, when we're done with the myth of laying the foundation for the myth of whiteness, when we get down to the end, then we'll feature transgender, which is Derek Hough, and show you why we label him a transgender. Okay? So just bear with me. So to begin with, I'm at Derek Hough's wiki page, his official stats, and this page is littered with Freemasonic symbology. It is ridiculous. If you want to go read it up, you can always pause the video. You could just type, Derek Hough. I don't know if I'm saying the name right, Derek Hough or Derek Hough. But you guys know just by looking that I'm talking about Derek. I'm hovering my mouse right there so you can see. So his page is littered with Freemasonic symbology. I don't like reading too much into Freemasonic symbology because it's a long, windy road. But for those who have had Freemasons or Freemasonic brothers and sisters, you should know the code and all that stuff. But what I want you to take notice on this wiki page of Derek Hough, I've checked out her sister, because I'm calling her her for now. Derek Hough Julian Ho is actually female. She's not a transgender, but these are two females right here. But we'll get into that later. But just what I want you to notice from this wiki page is that it says here when Hough was 12, his divorcing parents sent him to London to live and study with dance coaches Corky and Shirley Ballas. Hugh's sister Julian joined him in London several months later, originally intending to stay for a year. Hough remained in London for 10 years. So I'm just showing you how these people, play around with you and this fake biostats and everything else. So they're saying that she was supposed to be in London for a year and ended up staying for 10 years. Why is that? Because they wanted to take the time out to make it molded. All right? All the plastic surgeries or surgeries that she might need to make it look like female, and all the testosterone supplements or hormones that he might be taking. So they want him to be out of the, or they wanted her to be out of the public eye, right? From maybe the people that knew her, so that when he comes back, nobody can tell and just say, oh, it's Derek who, right? So that's what I just wanted to show you from the wiki page. And as you know, the Vatican is always not too far behind, because you can see right here, he said that he was schooling at the Italia Conti Academy of Theatre Arts right there in London. It's always the Vatican behind everything else. So that's just what I wanted to show you first of all, before I can jump on to saying something else. So I'm gonna jump on and talk about some few other stuff, and then lay the foundation, as I said, for the myth of whiteness part 2, and then we go into it. All right. So I'm still talking about stuff here before I lay the foundation. It's just, when I notice things on the internet like this that I think I should bring to your attention, then I make you guys see it. So what I want to show you guys is yeah, everybody knows that Jay-Z had an album, right? And the album was called 4.44. And a lot of people were trying to understand why his album is labeled 4.44, right? And as usual, because the Vatican is always behind and all these Freemasonic people, you can actually pause the video and copy out that link right there and go paste it in your browser so you can read up on it. It says here the internet thinks they know why Jay-Z really named his album 4.44, and it has to do with Solange Knowles. So the Vatican, as usual, is always trying to play mind games on the people. So if you read through the story, they say the reason why the album is labeled .44 is because Jay-Z got into a fight with Solange, and the address of the place at where they got into a fight, that so-called fake elevator fight, was at 4044, right? And that's the reason why the address is named .44. And as usual, they have their coons here, like Stephen on Twitter, saying, "I'm at the standard where Solange beat Jay-Z's ass in the elevator. The address is 444. I am shocked." But people, the truth is, Jay-Z is part of the lower strata of the Illuminati, which happens to be the Vatican. The Vatican is the Illuminati. He's the lower strata. And since they believe in all this kind of, Freemasonic and occultic things, because when you hear the word occult, I don't want you guys to be too scared about it. Occult just means secret. It's the same word for mystery. So when you see the word mystery or occult, just put in secret. The right word there is secret. So Jay-Z is in secret. Does it make sense? He worships in secret. Whatever he's worshiping is not of God. It's all those secret, things or forbidden things that they shouldn't be doing. So I just thought I should give you the answer to this question on why this album is called .44. Now I will refer you to another web page. It's called Magic Book 4. It's written by Aleister Crowley. All right. Now you can pause the video and copy the link, or you could actually just Google Magic Book 4 Aleister Crowley. And you should remember that Aleister Crowley, that he came up with the word or term that Jay-Z loves the most. And a lot of this Freemasonic people who actually work for the Vatican have changed it into several other synonyms that they can use. For example, you hear Drake say, is it YOLO? That means you only live once. It's part of the occultic things that Aleister Crowley, who was a Freemason and a Vatican Jesuit as well, trained people with. And one of the things that you notice is that Jay-Z wore a shirt sometime that says, "Do what thou wilt." That's all part of the Aleister Crowley teaching. So his album called .44 is actually paying homage to Aleister Crowley's book, which was called Magic Liber ABA Book 4, right? And so in Freemasonic things, when you're paying homage to someone, right, it has to be in threes. So that's why that album is called 4.44, means 4 three times. He's paying homage to Aleister Crowley. That means he's practicing magic, and probably he's at the level which he feels that he can be a stalwart in that particular line. And this is what the Vatican permits to you in music and popular culture, right? So I don't want you guys to get twisted and following Jay-Z and trying to figure out what the album really means. This is what it means. He's just paying homage to Aleister Crowley, and probably he thinks he has arrived at a stage in his life in which he can be a real magician or occultist like Aleister Crowley. I just want to. It was just something I just wanted to throw out there so you guys know. So I'll talk about something else, and then we'll go back and lay the foundation for the myth of whiteness. Okay. So the next thing I thought that you guys should take notice of what is this. I actually saw this article online. It says Kyrie Irving's flat Earth belief is making a middle school teacher's job difficult. Kyrie Irving is also another stooge of the Vatican. He's a Freemason as well as all people who happen to be on TV is, and I'm going to talk about that for a minute or two. Now, it says here Kyrie Irving has had a busy 2017. Just this past month, he requested a trade away from the three-time defending Eastern Conference champions. See, they're still talking that Freemasonic thing right there. 3 times, but why didn't you just mention that these guys won the NBA championships a year ago? Why do you have to say they're a 3-time Eastern Conference champions? Just trying to show you that he's a Freemason, okay? I'm just trying to show you how these people talk. So since he reportedly won't talk to anyone from the Cavaliers organization and hasn't exactly put himself on good terms with the people of Cleveland, but okay, let me not just read that. I just want to let me show you what I actually want to say. He says Irving doubled down the theory to. Oh, should I start there? Okay, let me write here. Start. He says, but all the July craziness has made us forget how Kyrie Irving started off the year by suggesting with apparent sincerity that the earth is flat. Yeah, remember that? So they're trying to make it sound like it's some sort of mockery, all right? That the earth isn't flat, all right? And they set up Kyrie Irving to tell you the story in a Freemasonic way, I mean, of laughing at you. And they said, if you read down to the page, it says that and yet while we laughed about Irving's belief, it's not a belief, it's fact. The earth is flat. When you look around you every day, it's a flat world. Let me keep reading. It says there's a serious side to the story too. Irving is a public figure, one whom a lot of young kids look up to, and he was publicizing pseudoscience. Can you believe that? The saying the flat earth is pseudoscience and the globe is real fact. Ridiculous. Lending apparent credibility to something that deserves absolutely nothing of the sort. So I'm just showing you how these guys play mind tricks and are brainwashing your children day and night using people like Kyrie Irving, who is one of their own puppets, to run the show. So it's just something of I thought of note that you guys should see. So and that's all it is. So I'll just move on to the next piece of information I have, and then we'll keep rolling until we start laying the foundation for the myth of whiteness. Okay, all right. So what I want to talk about, because right now I'm in the part I call the 7-minute delusional segment comment section, sorry to say, in which I feature, people who are really deluded. I didn't have a lot of deluded comments except for one person. I think the person actually has a channel, I think, on YouTube, and I think the person is called the Real Yvonne or Real Yvonne. I don't quite remember the name. What I wanted you guys to understand is this, right? There's a new type of shilling on YouTube that's really crazy, and it happens to you mostly with people showing their faces and talking about transgender people and all that. And like I've always told you before, now here's the reason why I don't show my face on YouTube. I've actually told you guys that once you see a person's face on TV, doesn't matter what the person is trying to tell you, most likely the person is a shill working for the Vatican. Now, why do I say that? Now, there's a certain type of people now on YouTube who are they call themselves like truth channels or so, but they show their faces and they talk about transgender people. I've noticed like two women actually doing this. One's a younger version of I think the younger one is the really one. Then the other one I don't quite remember the names. And this person actually, she says that she's all about the truth. She talks a lot about stuff like, and using curse words just to make it, look, I don't know, make it glamorous or have drama. She uses a lot of curse words, and she says that's just the way she talks because she talks the truth. But this person is a shield. You know what I mean? Because this person came up to my and left a comment for me and said that I am a transgender. That's why I talk about Beyonce, even though she knows that Beyonce is also a tranny, that she's gonna reveal me. And I'm just like laughing because if she saw me in real life, I mean, this lady would run for her life. That's just the truth. Just because people talk tough. Just because they're on YouTube and you can talk with so many kind of words, curse words and shout. It doesn't make you tough. Just because I talk nice and calm and cool doesn't make me any less of a weakling. It could be a pure deception. So these people, I want you guys to take notice of them. All right, be careful of those truth seekers who reveal themselves and reveal their faces and everything else, because you have to understand, you have to be wise when you're dealing with the truth. You can't just make yourself an open target. All right, because these new truth seekers, the way they work is this. It's a job, and I'm going to tell you the little secrets, the tricks of the trade of how this actually works. So for example, what the government does, or the Vatican in short does, is this. They find people who have, let's say, Facebook. They use, because I've talked about before that Facebook is it's Vatican owned before on one of my videos. I think the Nancy Sinatra video. Now you have to understand that when they want to hire people to do a certain job for them, they get on Facebook. They find people who have a lot of friends. All right, then they send these people messages and tell them, okay, we want you to work for us because it seems like you have a lot of network. All right, this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna pay you on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. We're gonna be sending you like names of people to talk about, on what to talk about, and you guys should talk about that on your channels. That's how these people get paid. So people like who call themselves whatever name the case might be, that's actually what they're doing. All right, they're getting paid to spin out stories, and they make their face, and you think that because when you see their face that they're telling you the truth. It's far from it. Just know that. Don't trust any one of them, because like I said, the first step in spotting a shield, if you happen to see that person on TV, all right, showing their faces and telling you that they are telling you the truth, most likely they're telling you a lie. And I've told you guys, if you ever see me on TV and they say this is Tricks of the S Trade, you haven't seen me on any platform, radio, TV, or anything, you should know right there and then that I have been bought or vetted, and I'm no longer telling you the truth. I'm walking against you. All right. Now, just to jump out from that, the reason why I'm on this page is because I'm trying to answer a comment. Someone left me a comment on the myth of whiteness part 2 and said that she's white and she doesn't get any benefits at all. All right, that she doesn't have any benefits. So what I'm saying was actually wrong. Now, before I even go into that, a lot of people kind of want to ask me. It's more like people try to figure out who I am. They say, is he black? Is he white? Is he Asian? Whatever the case might be. So, but today I'm gonna tell you guys who I actually am. Like I've said before, we are all black. All right. So that would mean that I have albinic skin. That means my skin is white. My hair is straight. Um, I'm an American. I was raised in Texas or raised Texan bred. My second home is in Asia. So what does that make me really? If you're trying to figure out a picture of who I am, what does that make me really? I have a crooked eye. I'm suffering from a little bit of vitiligo as well, besides my white albinic skin. So, do you see where that's going now? Well, it doesn't make any sense. All what I'm trying to say is stop trying to figure out who I am. Just take what I'm saying. It's information. You don't have to argue with me, all right? I'm just giving you information. Whatever you want to make of it doesn't really matter. All you have to understand is that I'm a human being. I'm just trying to tell the truth and share the little bit of truth that I have. I don't say I understand all things. I'm just trying to give you my angle, just information. Make do it with whatever you want. I'm not here to argue with anybody. All right? So you don't have to say what I'm saying is truthful or I'm wrong or whatever the case might be. It's just information. Make of it whatever you want to do with it. It's all yours. It's free. All right? You're not paying for it. Okay? So the reason why I'm on this Yahoo page right now is because, like I've said, I'm going back to answering the question in which this lady said that white, because I talked about the fact that Vatican keeps racism going by giving white people benefits, and if white people can get benefits, then what happens is that they're going to maintain the system of racism because it's not benefiting everybody else. Because if you're getting benefits from being white, I mean, just for being who you are, right? Why not continue, right? And keep it that way and get the benefits. It's what I do, all right? So, the reason why I'm on this web page is just I want to show you what benefits actually mean so that you can understand what I'm saying. Now, why I'm showing you this web page is because there's what we call representation. Now, so the way to explain this is, for example, let's say you walk into an office, all right, and you're a white person, and the office is full of white folk. You're confident that these are your people or people who look like you. And so you're going to get the job or you're going to get whatever you want. That's called a benefit of representation, right? So now let's say, for example, that you're a white person and you walked into the room and you found that there were all black people with nappy hair. Would you feel as confident that you would get that job or benefit that you're going for? I'm sure you would not feel that way. That is what I call the benefits. I'm not just going deep down into explaining everything, but I'm talking about the simple things that you can relate with. All right? It's called a benefit of representation. So, for example, I'm on the Yahoo webpage now, and the stories, and actually today is let me see what let me see today's date is I already said it is the 28th of July. All right, now if I scroll through this web page, well, the first the head story here is you actually see a black folk, right? One of the head stories, because Yahoo has a lot of head stories, but all of that you're gonna see white people. Let's say Trump here is white, okay, this guy here is white, this is white, this is white or Asian. They talk about this is still white, considered white, Hispanic. There's one black folk. And there's another story right here. Let's scroll down. White, white, one black folk. White, white. I don't see what color this, but it looks like a black person. Or it's white is the next U.S. war. So that's white, white, one black folk. Okay? White, 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 white again, white, 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 white. So can you see, guys, where I'm going with this? White, white, white. So where are the black people? So it seems like for every representation, there's more white representation in everything. In your billboards that you see around, in your ads on the TV, You have more white representation. So that is the benefit that you get. You're being represented correctly. So you have a mindset, all right? It gives you confidence that whenever you walk into a situation, just because you have people looking like you, that you're going to get what you want. But on the other hand, the black people are not represented that way. So that's what I'm saying. So a black person walking to an office and seeing all white people, he's not going to have the confidence. So that's one of the benefits of talking about in which racism is perverted, that white people get benefits for being just who they are and black people don't. All right, so that's just what I wanted to bring to your attention, and let me just show you something else so you can understand what I'm saying. All right, so here's what I wanted to show you guys. For example, this article was written in, I think, let me see which year it was written. It was written sometime in September 2000, right? He says the last days of a white world. Okay, now why is it so particular that there has to be a white world? So I'm just trying to show you how, everything is geared towards the fact, all right, that white representation. When I say white here, I want you guys to understand me clearly. Anybody whose hair, all right, is, well, straight, to me, that's what I consider white, because like I explained before on the myth of whiteness, when albinism gets in the hair, because I've just said that white people are just black people who have lost the ability to produce melanin. I've explained all that in the part one, and the reason that it's a case of albinism. When albinism gets in the hair, it straightens it out, right? When it gets in the skin, it makes it white. Okay, so we're talking about people with straight hair and which have light, white skin or albinic skin, as the case may be, right here. Okay? So why are they so particular about the fact that it's a white world, as you can see here? So that's what I'm talking about, the representation, the benefits of being white. The world is being labeled white when it is not the case. So for that lady or whosoever left the comment and said that she doesn't have, that she doesn't get any benefits, I'm showing you that you're having confidence in your representation. So that's a benefit, just for the mere fact that you are told, you're made to believe that you being white is a privilege, or that you're being represented correctly. That is a benefit. That's just what I wanted to say. Okay, so I'm gonna move on and talk about something else, and then we'll continue on to laying the foundation for the myth of whiteness part 2. So what I wanted to share with you guys is a document. I'm gonna put up a link of this document in the description section of this particular video, so you can go take a look and you can have the document yourself. Now, this particular document, what's happening here? I'm trying to show you how, the Vatican makes laws, and the laws affects everybody without our knowledge. Now, this particular letter was called the Apostolic Letter, issued motu proprio of the Supreme Pontiff Francis on the jurisdiction of judicial authorities of Vatican City-State in criminal matters. So he makes a law, right, in the Vatican, but it affects all of us without us having any knowledge. Now, this particular law was written, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna put up a link. You can go pick up the document yourself and actually study. Now, this particular law was made on how the Vatican is going to be judging criminal matters, and the law went into effect on the 11th of July 2013. Now, when this law went into effect on the 11th of July 2013, it started changing the shape of things. Okay, now what the law did, it started making people I don't know what's the best way to explain it. Um, Now, this is what the law did, right? The law said that everybody or person, right, can now be held accountable for war crimes, crimes against humanity. That means anybody. They can just pick up anybody and he can be held accountable for war crimes, right? For the unlawful restrictions of the liberties of the divine spirit incarnate, for failure to settle the accounts for continued prosecution of claims already settled. So I'm just gonna put up a link, but I just thought it's something that you guys should notice, and that how the Vatican makes laws and it affects everybody. So when this law went into effect, now, right, what happened was that, um, let me just read it. It says here, this is what followed the next after the decree went in on the 31st of September 2013. But since the decree is not made public by the media, people can't see how the Pope affects everybody, okay? So this particular law caused the Ben Bernanke, the Federal Reserve chairman, to resign on September 1st. If you remember way back 2013, Ben Bernanke resigned. Then some Federal Reserve governors also resigned. And then Janet Napolitano, Homeland Security, resigned effective on that date as well, after the law got into effect. So now what I decided to do was put a compilation of public laws which actually show you that the Vatican owns the whole entire world, and the United States in particular. Now I made I took time I took out the time to highlight those laws, because like I'm saying right here, that these are public documents. So you can, if you have the chance, and for those guys who actually study stuff like Angie Coulter, you can actually go look up these laws. It's public, all right? It's public cases. The ones that I've highlighted right here, as you can see right here, if you're following my mouse, you can go look this up and see how these laws show you that the United States and all the agencies, including the United Nations, are all subject to Rome. All right. So I'll put up a link in the description of this video so you can actually go get this document, and if you're interested, go look at the laws that I've highlighted, which are public. You can go look it up. It's public everywhere, in the places that you can find it, and read up and see what I'm talking about. So that's just what I wanted to bring to your attention real quick. Okay, so let's move on. So first of all, I want to thank Angie Coulter. Angie Coulter, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but you know who you are. I just want to thank her for bringing up something that I thought I should share with you guys. Now, the reason I'm reading this is because, Angie, I want to thank you again. If you didn't hear it, I'm saying it again. I want to thank you for this article. Now, Angie gave me an article to read up on, and she was talking about the differences in how men and women walk. And the reason why she happened to do that was because she saw this particular picture. Now, this is a picture of Derek, which we are featuring on this particular video. And Angie said that the way this she walked, she didn't walk like a man would walk. And in my understanding, which I'll explain a little bit later, I knew that the female walk is different from a male walk because the hips are wider. So Angie attempted to explain even more so we could understand. So I'm going to share what she said right here with you. I'm going to read for you guys to see. It says, when walking, women lean their torso laterally toward the weight-bearing leg. All right. So for example, right now, as this supposed dude is working, as he's turning when he's walking, so if it's a female, the weight is going to be distributed to the leg that's being put forward out here. All right. So this female, because it's actually a female, Derek Hugh, is leaning the weight of the body towards this leg. I'll explain a little bit more later so you can understand, but I just want to show you what Angie said, which is a very, very good article that she read up on and had the time to put it together and to make us see. So I'll continue reading. It says, when women walking lean their torso laterally toward the weight-bearing leg and have a much greater ability to rotate the knee and hip joint in an outward or inward rotation than men do. All right. This is a little bit, if it's too heavy for you, I'm going to break it down later. So I just want to read on. I'm just going to make you understand the finer details. It says, they lean sideways toward the weight-bearing leg and rotate those joints slightly out or in to compensate for the female hormone-induced fluidity inherent in a woman's body for the necessity of greater pelvic flexibility in childbearing. Now I'll go read what she said, how a man walks, right? On the other hand, they found that when men are walking, they lean laterally forward the non-weight bearing leg. So if a man's walking, a female will bear her weight towards the legs that stepped out forward. When a man's walking, he's gonna distribute the weight to the leg that's behind him. All right. So when you make a step, one leg goes forward and one's behind you. So for women, the distribution is towards the leg that's in front. For men, the weight distribution is in the leg that's behind. So what's the reason for this? So part of the reason is one, because where the hip joints are placed. Now it has to do with the pelvis. The pelvis of a man, right, has a 90-degree arch or less. A female always has a 120-degree more wide pubic arch. I'm going to explain that much more for you guys to see. So because of that, the stability of the pelvis of a man is much more stable than that of a woman. Now the hip joints, with the hip joints of a man, right, is lateral in the body. That means it's straight up and down. Now because the female pelvis is tilted forward, so the hip joints are a little bit angled out towards the back. So that's why when a woman stands, her weight is much more towards the back. When a man stands, the weight is much more evenly distributed, all right, towards the pelvis, the hips, and everything else, while a woman will be much more towards the back, because of that slight pelvis tilt. Now to explain that, let me show you what I actually mean. Let me see if I can pull up a few more pictures here and make you understand exactly what I'm trying to say. Okay, so to explain what I'm trying to say right now, I pulled up two cars. All right, now the one car right here is called let me make this small so you can actually see it better. Hold on a second. Hold on a quick second. Let me move that well. So I moved it properly so you guys can actually see what I'm saying. So I'm gonna use the wheelbase of a car to explain what Angie was saying, because it might be a little bit too scientific and heavy for most people, but I think with a car it's gonna be much more well understood. So here's what's happening. So here is a Mini Cooper on my right, and here is a Rolls Royce to my left. Okay, now the car on my right, the Mini Cooper on my right, represents a man's hips. Okay, or let's say a man's pelvis, and the Rolls Royce on my left represents a female pelvis. Now you guys, maybe you've never known this, there's what they call the wheelbase of a car. As you can see my mouse right here, called wheelbase. Now the wheelbase of a car is the distance between the wheels of a car. All right, so the longer the wheelbase, the longer the car, or bigger the car. The shorter the wheelbase, the distance between the front wheel and the rear wheels, the shorter or longer the car might be. So now remember, the car on my right, the Mini Cooper, represents a man. The Rolls Royce on my left represents a woman. So I'm going to use this as the standard to make you understand what I'm saying. So here we go. So a man's pubic arch, right, is the distance between this front wheel of this Mini Cooper, right, and the rear wheel of this Mini Cooper. So this is the pubic arch right here. So remember, like I said, the longer the pubic arch, the wider or longer the car might be. Okay, so this wheelbase, right? So for example, this is the pubic arch. This is standard for a man. A man has the arch or the distance or the wheelbase of a Mini Cooper. For a woman has the wheelbase, right, of a Rolls Royce. Okay, so now what happens is this: some women can. So if the Rolls Royce is standard pubic arch, that means this is pubic arch is, remember, is the distance between the front wheel and the rear wheel. So if you're looking at the pelvis of a female, all right, this would be the pubic arch, and the wheels here would represent the hip joints. Does it make sense? Okay, so for some women, so women can have a wide pubic arch, as let's say, let me see if I can pull up the picture. Let me see, as let's say, where is it? Like this one right here. A woman can have a pubic arch as wide as a limo, but the standard is always the Rolls Royce, right? The distance between the front wheel and the rear wheel, or the front wheel and the rear wheel, is the pubic arch. Okay. Some women can get as wide a pubic arch as a truck, right here. Okay, this is a big truck, and the pubic arch can be wider. Means the distance from the from the rear wheel to from the rear wheel to the front wheel can be very, very wide. But for the purposes of this particular video, we are using a Rolls Royce as the standard. And the standard for a man right here, all right, is a Mini Cooper. So now this is where what Angie Coulter is trying to explain. I'm trying to break it down so you guys can understand. So the shorter the wheelbase, the more agile this thing is. It can move and turn quickly. So if this car tried to turn, it would take a longer, right, a longer curve length to turn. If this Mini Cooper tried to turn, it would turn it's more quick. It can turn sharper because this wheelbase is shorter. Does it make sense? So because a man has, right, a narrow pubic arch or narrow wheelbase, the wheels of this car are not working so hard to turn. They can turn in any direction quickly. But for a Rolls Royce like this, which has a wider arch or wheelbase, is gonna take a longer turn, and the wheels are gonna work more than the wheels of the Mini Cooper because of this pubic arch. So because of this, all right, so I'm explaining from Angie Coulter's right now. She's talking about, the fluidity of the hormones that soften and everything else. They have to work more for the wheels of this car to turn because of the wider wheelbase. Does it make sense? So for a man, it's going to be shorter. So one thing you have to understand is, like, when a woman walks, let me show you, let me try to see you. So the reason for the female gait is because the pubic arch is wider and the wheels or the hips are farther apart. So when a woman wants to walk, the leg of the female has to do things. It has to step inwards, right, and forward. It's doing two things at the same time because it's wider. So what am I trying to say? Let me see if I can explain with a drawing so you guys can see. Let's say, for example, this is let's say this is the pubic. Okay, let's just say this is a table right here, right? And the feet is right here, right? Let's say this is a normal regular table. Okay. Now, if this foot has to work, if it's a table trying to work, it just has to move its feet forward, all right, to walk. There's no problem. But if this is wider, right, all right, if this is a wider table, and the feet are right here. Okay, if you put this table across this one, let me see if I can put it right here. So maybe I'll draw this. All right. Okay. Let me put this. This is a table. That's a woman on top, and that's a man. All right. Now, if we are walking the same distance, if we're trying to walk in a straight line, okay, this is a regular man. See, all this has to do is just move its feet here, right? Move its feet right here. But if this is the female behind and she tries to walk in step with which is the normal way that somebody should walk. This feet has to go inwards, right? Like that. And forward for it to walk. So that's the reason for the female hip swinging side to side, because the foot or the feet is trying to move inwards in step and forward at the same time, putting more strain on the hip joints. So the reason for all the waddling and swaddling or cat walking is because of that, the female gait, because the hips have to move inwards and forwards. So that's just what I wanted to explain to you, and we'll move further. Okay, so I'm back on another picture here, and this is a picture that we had of Beyonce, right? I think we had on one of those pregnancy update series. Now, during the course of providing that Beyonce up there on those fake twins pregnancy, I forgot to give you guys some pertinent information, and that's what I want to share with you guys today. Now, because if you look at this picture, you will find out that Beyonce's face doesn't show, right? And we assume that Blue Ivy is one of these kids down here, even though we can't see any of their faces, all right? So, what I forgot to explain to you guys is how these guys are able to tell, the Vatican is able to tell such ridiculous lies of this dude in Beyonce getting pregnant, and nobody seems to come up, because if you're looking at this picture, you seem to see a lot of people, and this information is so tight knit that no one comes up or says anything about it. All right, so it just looks like we are the crazy people only talking about Beyonce. Okay, so what I forgot to tell you guys is this. Now, when these guys want to set up scams like this, they put up an ad on TV and they say, or maybe not, I wouldn't say TV, it's mostly done on the internet, that they want to cast people for some movies, a show, or whatever the case might be. All right, so people are gonna show up, all right, and say they want to be on TV. So you wouldn't know that the show that you're being asked to act, or what you're being called for, that you're actually shooting a scene for Beyonce. So what happens is this: they're gonna dress someone up, all right? So you're gonna go for the movie shoot, and someone is gonna get dressed up. The people who go for the movie should know that's not Beyonce, right? The person's gonna dress up, they tell you guys take positions or whatsoever. This person is gonna dress up like you're seeing right here, that looks like Beyonce with the fake prosthetic and everything, and they tell you it's a movie, it's a show, okay? And as you guys are there doing your own part and you're taking pictures, all right, of this person that's supposed to look like Beyonce looking pregnant and everything else, they tell you what to do and what else not to do. So they shoot the whole thing, and then you go home. They pay you your money, you sign all your documents, and you guys go home. But you guys didn't know that you were actually shooting a fake Beyonce movie. Does it make sense? So the movie gets released, and you see yourself, and they tell you that's Beyonce, and you're like, but wait a minute. When we shot the movie, there was no Beyonce right there. So how can they say that this is Beyonce when it's not? I was there, making you guys look stupid and crazy. So even if you told somebody and said that, I shot a movie but Beyonce wasn't in it, but they said it was Beyonce, it makes you look crazy. It makes you look retarded. So that's how these people are able to shoot this kind of things like this, and people will not be able to know, because I can guarantee you that the person in this picture is not Beyonce. That's why they don't have a close-up of the face. I can guarantee you that none of these kids here is Blue Ivy. There's some just random children, and this is a random person being shot in a movie-like fashion to look like Beyonce. So they're gonna capture this and tell you it's Beyonce when Beyonce wasn't here at all. Because if you saw the fake boobs and the face prosthetic of this person, especially if this person wasn't pregnant and just wearing all this prosthetic, you would just not think nothing of it. You would just say it's a movie that we are faking. We are acting a movie. That's it. But you don't know that they had cast you in a position, all right, of making you, of putting you in a position to say later on that you were with Beyonce when you were not, you had no idea or clue or what you were doing. So this secret is kept. So that's how these guys fool people and make people believable stories like this. And people will actually say not know the difference between right or wrong, or not know what they were actually doing. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to share with you guys before I move on. I'm sorry for taking so long to arrive at this point. I just had some information that I had to get out of the way so that we can go straight into the myth of whiteness as we are going in now, because there are some things that I thought you guys should know about the myth of whiteness part 2, that it's just some small fine details so that you can have a full understanding of what we're saying and what we're trying to say on the part 1. Okay, all right, so let's get in now. So to lay the foundation for the myth of whiteness part 2, as usual, I'm going to refer you to this particular article online that I showed you guys in part 1, which was a letter by Benjamin Franklin called America as a Land of Opportunity, and it was written in 1751. And as usual, I'm going to scroll down the page because I want you guys to take note of that year. 1751 is a very important year for the rest of this video, so you have to remember that year right there. So as usual, I scroll down to this particular part in which Benjamin Franklin has talked about that you know, that Africa, that the world is totally black. Now someone left me a comment one time and said that they think I think it's a she said that if we believe that the world is shades of brown, then we could all get along and, you know, put racism aside. But I just want to correct her on something. The world is shades of black, not brown, because brown is a shade of black. Black is not a shade of brown. All right, so I want her to take note of that and to understand that the concentration of all color is black. Okay, so brown is a shade of black, not the other way around. From the black color you get all the colors that you have in the color spectrum. That's just fact. Any painter can tell you that when you mix all the colors in the color spectrum, it turns black. So brown is a shade of black. So just to put it in perspective, we could all understand that we are all black. All right, let's say for example right now that this whole world was black people, black as in black in the color of skin, not any other shade, we would very much know who is our problem, because it would, all hands would point to the Vatican once the color thing has been eliminated. Does it make sense of what I'm saying? So that's what I'm trying to make people understand. If we can all understand that we are all black people, it would be very, very easy to point your hand at the Vatican as the target for your problems. Because there's racism and these color lines have been blurred. So we have the Vatican making us believe that there are different races when there are none, and that we are all black people. We can't spot them as the problem. They're hiding behind a cloak of racism. I've already explained that before. The reason for racism is to keep them in power. They have to have a population that represents them, otherwise they can't be in power. Does it make sense? So to go on further now, I want you guys to take a note of this particular document. And as if you have to have watched the part one to get this document. But all the same, I'm gonna just highlight the portion that is of necessary importance that you should read. Let me just see if I can highlight the whole portion right there. And I want you to take note of Benjamin Franklin's word says that I wish that his numbers, that means the white numbers, will increase, and while we are, as I may call it, scoring the planet. Okay, see that? Scoring the planet. Okay. And he also says here that why, let me see if I can find it again. Um, yeah, why should we increase the sons of Africa? Then just showing you right there that the whole world was black. And I'm going to show you on this particular video by the end of this video so you can see clearly, all right, that the world was indeed what Benjamin Franklin said at that point in time. So take note of the year 1751. Because as you go into history, when you start studying about reading European history or everything, or how all these inventions or world was discovered, you will find out that it's always between that time frame of 1751 onwards, right? Mostly, in most cases, 1751 onwards. I want you guys to take note of that. So to start this particular story, I'm going to refer you to a book. The book is called the Book of Enoch. Now, I'm not reading something that, I don't want you guys to say, okay, it's not in the Bible or anything. The Bible actually refers to the Book of Enoch, and I'm going to show you that in a second. So let me just show you that before I go on and take you to the book, all right? So I am actually in the King James Bible. I'm reading from Jude, and Jude has just one chapter, but I'm reading from verse 14. So you can understand that when I'm talking about the book of Enoch, I'm just not talking something abstract. I think that the book of Enoch should have been included in the Bible, but for some reason, I don't know how these guys decided to leave it out. But all the same, let's read from Jude chapter 1. You can pause the video at any point in time. Go look for the King James Bible and read it from there. It says, and I'm reading from verse 14. It says, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of this, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. All right. So when I'm talking about the book of Enoch, I'm not just saying something abstract. It's a book. There is an extra biblical book which I think, besides the books of the Bible, especially the 1611 King James Bible and the 18 and this, I think, the 1599 Geneva Bible, I think is a book that you ought to read. I think I'm going to leave a link in this particular video in the description section so you can actually go read up on it. So let's switch back to the book of Enoch so I can show you some stuff. I'm still laying the foundation, the groundwork for the myth of whiteness part 2 that we're on right now. Okay. So I read from the book of Enoch, and I want you to notice something, because I'm just going to read the first chapter of the book of Enoch. You can pause the video and copy out the link right there. All right. Paste it in your browser so you can read along. Okay. So I want you to notice that if you read the book of Enoch, I'm sure to guarantee you that a lot of stuff that you don't understand about your world, and especially places like in the Bible when he says that the sons of God came down to the earth, all right, and took themselves wives and bore giants, you will have a firm understanding, okay, of everything else. So, but I'm going to read the book of Enoch from chapter 1 here. I'm going to read from verse 1 to chapter 2, so you can understand that the book of Enoch was written specifically for us in this generation. It's talking about us, because when Enoch was alive before the flood of Noah, all right. But God, by his mercies, right, made him write a book that was for us living in the last days. Okay, so let me read that to you so you can understand. I'm reading from chapter 1, from verse 1. It says, the word of the blessing of Enoch, how he blessed the elect and the righteous who were to exist in the time of trouble, rejecting all the wicked and ungodly, Enoch, a righteous man who was with God, answered and spoke, while his eyes were open, and while he saw a holy vision in the heavens. This the angels showed me. From them I heard all things and understood what I saw, that which will not take place in this generation. So he, at that point, writing and prophesying and seeing all these things, right, says that what he's saying is not going to take place in his generation, but in a generation which is to succeed at a distant period on account of the elect. So I want you to take note of that. It says this generation is to succeed at a distant period. Distant, not in his time. All right. So I'm gonna read that. I just want to read right to you. Then let's move on to the next thing on still the book of Enoch, which I want you guys to take notice of. So the next chapter in the book of Enoch that I'm reading, I'm still laying foundation for the myth of whiteness right here, is from chapter number 15. Okay, so you can pause the video, copy out that link right there, and go read the chapter 15. Now this chapter 15 talks about how the angels, right, left heaven. The sons of God left heaven, the angels, and came to earth and took wives of them. I don't want to read too much into it, but let me just read some okay, let me just read it from verse 1 so you can understand. It says, then addressing me he spoke and said, hear, neither be afraid, O righteous Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, approach hither and hear my voice. So this is God talking to Enoch. Go say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent thee to pray for them. Okay, so the angels who left heaven had sent Enoch, all right, to go intercede for them to God, because God had laid out a plan of destruction for them and what was going to happen to them. So it was crazy. You have to read the book of Enoch. You will understand. Just read it. I'll leave a description in the comment section, but you have to read it. And now let me just keep reading so you understand what's going on. Here he says, go say to the watchers of heaven who have sent me to pray for them, you ought to pray for men and not men for you. So he's saying that the angels ought to pray for us, men, right? And not men for them. So that means angels were meant to pray for men. I'm just letting you know that. All right, let me keep reading. It says, wherefore have ye forsaken the lofty and holy heaven, which endures forever, and have lain with women. So the book of Enoch makes you understand when all of these indoctrination masters who call themselves pastors try to tell you that the sons of God refers to the sons of Seth or something like that, that no angels came down from heaven, is a misunderstanding. The book of Enoch puts it very clearly to you so you can understand, because Enoch was living at that time. Okay. So let me keep reading. It says, wherefore have ye forsaken the lofty and holy heaven which endures forever, and have lain with women, have defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, have taken to yourselves wives, have acted like the sons of the earth, and have begotten an impious offspring. Impious. What does impious mean? Let's find out. Let's take a dictionary and find out what impious means. So here's the definition of impious. I'm taking it from I think Oxford Dictionary. It says of impious, of a person or act wicked. That's one of the synonyms used for impious. And another one says showing a lack of respect for God or religion. But here, so we go back to the book of Enoch. So impious means wicked offspring. Now let's keep reading so you can understand. Now some things more. It says, you being spiritual, holy, and possessing a life which is eternal, have polluted yourselves, all right, have polluted yourselves with women, have begotten in carnal blood, have lusted in the blood of men, and have done as those who have flesh and blood do. This, however, die and perish, meaning flesh and blood die and perish. So what is he saying? Let's keep reading. Therefore have I given to them wives, that they might cohabit with them, that sons may be born of them, and that this might be transacted upon earth. But you from the beginning were made spiritual, possessing a life which is eternal, and not subject to death forever. Therefore I made not wise for you, because being spiritual, your dwelling is in heaven. So, like I've said before, spiritual things don't mean ghosts or whatever. They are physical things. That means you can touch them, you can hold them, you can see them, you can feel them, you can touch. All right, I've talked about the fact that spiritual things are physical things. It's not anything abstract or something esoteric in your mind. Okay, so like I've always explained before, that God is a man. All right, but he's a spiritual man. Spiritual means he's not made of flesh and blood. He doesn't have blood running through his veins. He might have something else, but he's not flesh and blood. But he looks like us. He has two eyes, a mouth, arms, legs, and walks. That's what the Bible says. Okay, so let's keep reading so you can understand what's going on here. Now it says, therefore I made not wise for you, because being spiritual, your dwelling is in heaven. Now the giants who have been born of spirit and of flesh shall be called earth evil spirits. So what does that mean? So God is saying here that angels had a life eternal. They could not die, so they lived on forever. So they did not require, okay? They do not require to procreate, because the only reason for procreation is because, according to God's plan, man was supposed to live forever at the beginning, but he was supposed to fill up the earth with people. All right? But now, since death had entered into the world and man had died, procreation was needed to sustain life on the earth. All right? So that's why God said, man should have wives and cohabit with their wives, and and have and raise children. Okay, so let's keep on reading. So he's saying that here, because the angels, who were spiritual beings, came down and slept with physical beings. That means one body is spiritual. It's meant to live forever in heaven, and this one is physical. It's meant to live in earth and just has a temporary lifespan. So let's keep reading. So these two made it. Now let's keep reading. It says, now the giants who have been born. So when this happened, okay, the offspring of this union between spiritual beings and physical beings were giant men. Now, why am I laying all this foundation for you? I'm laying this foundation for you to understand that way back, man was not of the stature that we see us today. So let's say, for example, the average height of a man, let's say, can be 6 feet tall. Way back in the time of, let's say, Enoch and Adam, men were average of like 18 feet tall. That was an average height for a dude. So men were very tall, and so was this world. Now, the reason why is because this world, before the flood, things were different. So let's say before the flood, there was no rain. There was no rain on the earth. The sun wasn't, so hot during the summer. All round during the year was a stable season. So things could grow. And because the air, there was no rain, and the mist covered the, all of this I'm saying is according to the Bible, right? A mist covered the whole earth. Everything was in perfect union. Even after the fall of man, things were still perfect until the flood. When the flood came, because remember, way back before the flood, the earth was made up of more land than water. And if you can understand, you have proof to show you that the earth had more land than water, because if you notice, everywhere in this world, you can dig up oil, crude oil, and crude oil is made of dead organic matter, even right in the deepest oceans, showing you that the whole earth was made more of land than water before the flood. It's shrinked to the point that the flood has shrinked the earth to the point that it is today, in which the earth is made up of only, let's say 1/4 of land, and the rest is just water. That's just what I wanted to make you guys take note of. So let me continue reading so you can understand this, so you can understand your world better. He says now, so like I've said before, before the flood, man was at least 18 feet tall. That was his usual height. Then these giants here were like, let's say 24 feet tall. They were very tall beings before the flood. Okay, so that's why I wanted you to understand before I keep reading. It says, now the giants who have been born of spirit and flesh shall be called evil spirits, and on earth shall be their habitation. Evil spirits shall proceed from their flesh, because they were created from above. From the holy watchers was their beginning and primary foundation. Evil spirits shall they be upon earth, and the spirits of the wicked shall they be called. The habitation of the spirits of heaven shall be in heaven, but upon earth shall be the habitation of terrestrial spirits who are born on earth. The spirits of the giants shall be like clouds, which shall suppress, oppress, corrupt, fail, contend, and bruise upon earth. They shall cause lamentation. No food shall they eat, and they shall be thirsty. They shall be concealed. I want you to take note of that. They shall be concealed, and shall not rise up against the sons of men and against women, for they come forth during the days of slaughter and destruction. Okay, let me explain what I just read. So, what God is saying is this: a spiritual being cannot reside in the earth. Okay? So the angels were meant to reside in heaven. That was their primal origin. Okay? So now there is a schism now in the sense that a spiritual being has mated with a physical being and created a race of giants. So naturally, what happens is this: when a man dies, because you have to understand that the real man is inside of you. The real man is not the flesh talking. Okay? It's not the flesh that we see. The real man is on the inside. It's called life. Nobody knows what it is, but the real you is inside your body or the flesh. That's the best way I can put it. So what's happening here is this: when you die as a man, you go to sleep. There's a resting place for you in the earth. Nobody can see you anymore. You're done. Okay? Now, because the angels slept with women, so what they brought up was a spirit being, or let's say a spirit being or fleshly being that had no place in this world. Okay? So instead, when this kind of spirits or kind of beings die, they have no resting place like when normal human beings die. Okay? Because when a human being dies, he goes to sleep according to the Bible. He goes to sleep. At the time when God calls all creation, he might call him up to life again. All right? Or he might go to hell. So here's what's happening. Because the angels made it with fleshly women made of flesh. When the bodies of when those things died, that means when their body died, just like a man dies, all right? Instead of the spirit of this thing to go to sleep, the spirit doesn't have any place to sleep. So the only place he can sleep is in the body of another person. That's what we call demonic possession. So now people might think and say, oh, wait a minute. So you're saying we have certain things walking around and everything else. Well, the truth is, they can't walk around. They can't do you no harm except they co-inhabit the body of another human being and use that human being to harm you. That's just the way it works. Because it is the only way anything can function in this earth is to have a body, a physical body of a human being. So that's why, for example, if you remember the story in which Yehoshua was trying to cast out a demon from a man, and those demons said that he should give them authority to go into pigs, and those pigs drowned. And when they drowned, those demons were gone. They had no place. So how a demon, so what God is trying to say here is that this thing that has been created between the union of angels and females, human beings, will be giants in the earth. But as you can see here, he said that these things will not, they did not eat any food, they shall be thirsty, they shall be concealed. Concealed means you'll never see them, ever. But only through when they are possessed, when they possess other human beings. So the reason for all the mayhem and destruction in this world, besides the fact that a human being is wicked, that the heart of a human being is evil, is because these evil spirits have possessed that human being. So when I say that the Vatican is possessed of demons, this is exactly what I mean. Because they are the ones controlling these human beings to murder and kill and lie and steal and do all sorts of atrocities because they cannot eat. So they are hungry for something else. Does it make sense? So I wanted to lay this foundation so you can understand what I'm going to say next. Okay? So hold on. So the next chapter I'm going to read from you to you in the book of Enoch. Like I said, you can pause the video and go look it up. I'm going to leave a link in the description section as well, so you can actually read the book of Enoch yourself. Because I want you to notice that, I want you to take note of the fact that man before the flood and a little bit after the time of the flood were really huge people. This is a matter of importance for you for this particular video, so you have to understand that, all right? Because you're gonna understand the reason for a lot of the things that happened after the flood, like the pyramids and the rest that, you know, the white supremacist Vatican tells you lies about, that aliens built the pyramids or how they lifted up the stones. When you're done reading the book of Enoch, especially with this foundation that I'm laying, that you're gonna understand that. So what I want you to notice in this particular book of Enoch, I'm gonna read. It's talking about Noah, when Noah was born. All right, Noah looked a little bit more different than the people that were around him at that point in time. But he was trying to Enoch here was prophesying into the future and telling Noah what was gonna happen, or to Lamech, because Lamech was the father of Noah. Okay. So he's telling Lamech what's going to happen during his time and what's going to happen during the time of Noah. So it says here in if you're reading from chapter, let me see what chapter I'm on right now on the book of Enoch. This is chapter 105. It says here in this particular part, I'm going to read from verse 15 of chapter 105. He says, this child, now referring to Noah, now he says, this child which is born to you shall survive on the earth, and his three sons. Let's talk about Shem, Ham, and Japheth, where were sons of Noah, shall be saved with him. When all mankind who are on earth shall die, he shall be safe. And that means during the flood, everybody's going to die except Noah. And his posterity shall beget on the earth giants, not spiritual, but carnal. What does that mean? So the spiritual giants were the sons of the angels, which I told you were taller than 18 feet tall at the time of Noah. This is how tall these dudes were. Okay. So, and he says here, because this book of Enoch is written in our own generation, because in our generation we don't see giants. We don't understand that the man before the flood was 18 feet tall. Now we see someone who's maybe 8 feet tall at the most, and we say that's a giant. Way back in the day, the average height for a man was 18 feet at the most. Okay, so now because it's written, the book of Enoch is now written for us, so he has to explain unto us when we are reading in our own time, like I'm reading right now, so we understand. All right, because we don't understand giants, so he's saying the posterity of that means Noah, which is already a huge tall man, shall beget on the earth giants, not spiritual but carnal. All right, so that's what I wanted you to take note of this particular spot. Then I'm going to move on to talking about some other things so you can understand better. So let's move on. Now I pick up this story. Now I just want you guys to keep following me because you understand what I'm where I'm going. Okay. Now I pick up the next story from Genesis chapter number 11. Okay. Number 11, Genesis chapter number 11 from the King James Version, and I read from a verse number 1, and it says, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime and they had for mortar. And they said, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." So at this point in time, now let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let me pull up a picture to make this. So at this point in time, what I want you guys to take note from this particular verse that I'm reading is that the whole world was in this shape and form. Forget about what you see on the screen in which you see the continents. The whole earth was made of one block of land like this. I want you guys to take note of that. All right. So the whole earth was made of one block. There is no such thing as continents called North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia. It was one earth. And forget about all these demarcations that you see and all these rivers around it. It was one earth. Okay? One earth. There could have been some rivers just like they're showing you right here, but this was how the world was. There was no such thing as a continent. Now, why am I saying all this? I laid the foundation for you to understand that man was a very, very huge. In our own terminology now, we will call them giants. All right. During before the flood of Noah and after the flood of Noah for a while, and I'm showing you that the earth also was made of just one block of land. All right, and there was only one language. Okay. So if you have that in your basic ideology up to this point, then I can continue on to show you something else. So let me show you what I want to show you guys. All right. So what I'm showing you before you is a slide of a picture. Now this is a picture that you see in Egypt, in which the white supremacist Vatican will never show you. Now, why won't they show you? Now, there's a branch of sciences of Egypt called Egyptology. Now, why would the white Vatican be interested in Egyptology? Let me just show you something on that real quick, okay? Let me show you something on that real quick. So I'm at the page of Egyptology, and if we want to see what Egyptology means, you can actually pause the video and just Google Egyptology, and you come to a wiki page or whatever else you can find, which we can use. But as usual, when you're reading anything, like I say, you should read with your brain sharp. Keep your brain always sharp. Don't read and think if it doesn't make sense. Now it says here, Egyptology is the study of ancient Egyptian history, language, literature, religion, architecture, and art from the 5th millennium BC. Now, why did the White Vatican take an interest in Egyptology? Now, let me show you, as usual, what I always say. You should always follow the timeline. Now, it says Egyptology's modern history begins with the invasion of Egypt by Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, the subsequent publication of description de l'Egypte between 1809. I want you guys to take note of that date. 1809 and 1829. Is 1809 and 1829 after 1751 in Benjamin Franklin's letter, in which he noted that the whole world was black, the Asians, the Russians, the Germans, the Swedes, the French, the Italians, you have to have watched the part one to get to that point, because there's a reason on where I'm going with this. Okay, so keep following me. Okay, so if you can see here, it says the modern Egyptology started between 1809 and 1829. Why was that important? Because like I said, the world was black. We know the Egyptians were black, even though they tried to paint them white. So the Egyptology was for the purpose of whitewashing the images of Egypt. So I've explained that before on the part one series of the myth of whiteness, in which I talk about that there's a reason why all ancient sculptures miss those noses and lips. Is for a very specific reason, to hide the fact that we are all black. Okay, so there's a reason for that. So let's keep let me go over and show you the pictures that I wanted to show you, so you can understand where I'm going with this. Okay, so now what you're seeing here, all right, probably you've seen this kind of pictures before, but you didn't quite understand, because what you're thinking now here is that these are two men and these are two children, or children right here, but these are two giants. Okay, these are two giants, and these are two regular people, or regular people around here. Now, if you do remember in the Bible, if you've studied your Bible a little bit, you would understand that the children of Israel knew about giants, because they had a name for them, like the Rephaim, or I think, or the Nephilim. Okay, those are one of the words. Okay, so that means during the time of Israel, or the children of Israel, right, they had giants living in their midst. So that's why they could understand and have a name for it, because you have a name for something that you see. So for example, if there were no giants, right, in their time, they wouldn't have a name. The Hebrew people wouldn't have had a name. Does it make sense? So let me show you some more pictures so you can understand where I'm going. So I want you guys to keep following the story. So these are giants right here. Okay, let's keep showing some more pictures. And here's another giant. This is a giant female right here, and this is a regular female dancing to a giant. Can you see that? These females right here are dancing to these huge giant ladies right here. Okay, so let me keep showing you another picture. Now here's another picture. Here's a giant, right, with a giraffe. Can you see that? So here this picture is trying to show you what a regular man looks with this kind of giraffe, right? This is the giraffe in those days, in just prior after the flood. But because you have to understand that the nation of Egypt existed after the flood, not before it. Okay, so you can see how tall these dudes were with a giraffe. All right, let me show you some other things. There's where I'm going with this. Now if you've ever wondered, one of the lies that the white supremacist Vatican always tries to tell you is like they don't know how the Egyptians lifted such great stones, or large stones, which I'm going to show you with in some more slides, how they lifted such great stones to build the pyramids. They try to make you think like it's some sort of alien technology, or they try to make you think like, you know, that they had so much, like some sort. Now mind you, you have to understand that the technology that, or the understanding that the ancients had, right, to the understanding that we have, is very, very different. So it seems like the much more closer they were to the times of Adam and Eve and Noah, they had much more great understanding of things, because I mean, there was not so much deception around. They could understand things. They could understand God and concepts. They had much more knowledge. The closer they were to that time. Now it seems like the farther we are away from it, we have less knowledge. Why? Because we haven't taken the time, our forefathers hadn't taken time to write out the history of what they were going through. That's why I encourage people to write about themselves. Write about yourself. Leave something behind. Don't let the white supremacist Vatican only tell you its story. Otherwise, you have nothing left. So these people was the much more closer the way to the times of Adam and Noah, because they could actually see what was happening. Right? It's more like your father. Imagine you living in that time. and you know that God spoke on all that kind of thing, you have so much knowledge. Does it make sense? So now what you're looking at this picture right now is giants carrying the stones that built Egypt, that built those great pyramids. So when the white supremacist Vatican tries to wonder and make you lie, and make you believe that it was alien technology that built the pyramids, or they were trying to think about what kind of technology built such great monuments around the world with great stones, it's because people were very tall and huge way back in the day, during the time of Noah and during the time of Adam, for a specific time. Does it make sense? And even down into when the children of Israel were leaving Egypt, they still could relate with the giants. That's why they could understand. Does it make sense? So these are giants lifting those great blocks. So how those great blocks were moved and the pyramids were built, because it was giant men doing it, as you can see right here. So let me move on to the next slide to show you. So for example, when you see this kind of sculptures right here, you think these are just sculptures of just great sculptures, but these are the actual representation of how those people were. This is how huge and tall they were compared to us today. So way back in the day, this is how man was. All right, so that's how man was able to move across long distances on the earth, and move around the earth, because they were this huge and this tall. Does it make sense? That's where I'm going all this. I'm still trying to lay a foundation for where we're going, so you can understand what I'm saying. Okay, so these are actual representation of how these guys were huge and tall. Does it make sense? Okay, let me go further. All right, so this is one of the blocks. Remember, this block is very, very popular in Egyptian. If you like studying the history of Egypt, because they will tell you that this is one of the cut stones that was carved out of rock. That they were wondering how these people carved out this kind of great rocks. You know, the white supremacist Vatican is always lying and deceiving, because, like I showed you before, the reason why I read that whole book of Enoch was to show you how those evil spirits, which lie and deceive, which hurt men, control the reality, okay, to hide God. Does it make sense? So they're always trying to tell you that they don't know how they cut this stone, because as you can see, this stone is very huge, and look at how small these men are around the stone, is because giants cut it. Man, that's how tall we were way back in the day, how big we were. We could cut stones like this and it wouldn't be nothing. All right, let me show you some other slides. So as you can see right here, this is a giant sitting, and this is a small man, all right, below him. Can you understand what is going on now? Small man, giant, small regular people. That means people started getting smaller. Does it make sense? So the genes started changing after the flood of Noah. We couldn't be as tall, as huge as them right here, all right? And we started getting smaller. So the smaller people served the giant men who still had the genes. That's why these people thought they were gods. Does it make sense? That's how the pharaohs and everybody else thought and called themselves gods, because they were much huge. They still had the genes, all right? And you can see the coloring here is still black. Some more pictures. And as you can see here, it is a perfect example of showing how they were lifting blocks. These are giant men lifting those blocks. The same blocks that I'm going to show you. Let me see if I can pull the next slide up. Let me see, where are those pictures? Right, okay, right here. Those are those blocks that these guys pulled up. These are the blocks that build the pyramids, and you can see how a small man stands in comparison to those blocks. So these are the paintings right here, showing you how these guys move those blocks, right? They painted all this relief is in Egypt, but the Egyptologists, because here's one thing you have to understand. If you're studying history and you take out the Bible, which the Vatican has made, who control the educational system, have made a lot of people to take out the Bible in studying the history. When you take out the Bible, then your understanding becomes null and void, as you will see as I'm going on. Because if these guys had believed in the Bible and stuff, these things would be pretty easy. Because the Bible clearly lets you know that there were giants. Men were tall. Men, we're not 6 foot tall as the average height is today. Our average height back then was 18 feet tall. Okay, so it makes you understand how these people can live, because you can see right here, these the blocks that we used to build the ancient pyramids, in which the Egyptians painted to show you how they built them. They are not small tiny blocks. Okay, let's keep moving on. This is just an ancient Egyptian mummy face. I just wanted to show you that these people were black, and you can see the hair is still nappy right there. Okay, let's keep going. Another Egyptian picture, you can see the steel painting. Now the Egyptologist trying to wipe off the features, this black feature, but you can still see right there that nose is still, as they say, an African nose, as they usually say. All right, okay, let's keep moving. And here again, this is another relief. You can see this is a pharaoh. He's a huge man, and look at all the small people around him, and I think he's beating on someone. You can see it takes 2 people to serve him. That's why these people were regarded as gods, because the men who retained those giant genes from Noah, became suppressive of other people who were smaller. Now remember, when I read the book of Enoch to you, and he showed you that the children of Noah will bear carnal giants. That means giants of flesh and blood, not spiritual giants or spiritual bodies of the angels. Remember that? Okay, so you can see that. Let me another slide right there. That's still the same slide showing you how these people lifted up the blocks and built the pyramids. All right, there's all relief painting in Egypt. Okay, and this is another example showing you how they lifted all those heavy blocks, huge man giants. I already showed you that one. Still there, just still showing you again how they did it, and how did all the carvings and everything else. Giant people, all of them, you can see very huge men. Now you can see there's a relative difference between these giants. This is a giant, no doubt, but this is another taller giant. Does it make sense? So you can see how the people who retain the genes of gigantism, or let's say the regular genes, that the normal genes of the Noah and Adamic period, ruled over the people who did not retain those genes. Does it make sense? Okay, let's keep going. And this, I already showed you this. This is the block that they lifted up. Let me see if I can pull that picture side by side so you guys can actually see very well. Okay. Yes, so what you can see right here, this are the blocks, and these are the giants lifting up those blocks. Does it make sense? So you can see how huge these blocks were and how small this man is compared to them. And these giants were lifting up the blocks. So you can now understand. All right, let me show you another slide in here so you can actually see a little bit more better. Let me see, where is that slide? There's another one, right? Comparing to show you how these guys picked up these blocks and built these pyramids. So let's keep going with another slide here. I already showed you that one, and you can see right there they're showing how they're making the mortar for the blocks, right, and all that. And this is how it's showing you how this is another relief in showing you, like, these are regular. You see how the animals were so huge way back in that time. So these are like regular people trying to kill a cow. Can you see how huge the cow is? And these are like giants over here trying to kill a cow. Can you see how big they are compared to the cow? So this is like a picture difference showing you how regular people killed huge giant cows. So everything was spectacularly big. So that's why, for example, when you see like maybe all the crazy dinosaurs or anything, does it make sense now? All these things were alive and well. There were giants in the earth, just like the Bible said. There were giants in the earth in that time. It wasn't just talking about like man giants only, but it was talking about also animals. Okay, does it make sense now? All right, so let me keep moving on and see. This is just a painting of Egyptian soldiers. And you can still see the skin is black, and and everything else. And that's a painting of an Egyptian mummy. So now I've laid the foundation for the story to actually tell you what I wanted to say. Okay, so where do I begin to tell you what I want to say? Just hold on a second. So I want to pose a question before I say what I want to say. Why do you think the Egyptians, all right, would build the pyramids? Why did they build such thing as an obelisk? Because you tend to see this obelisk everywhere, especially in like St. Peter's Square Basilica, in the Vatican, in Washington, in London. You seem to see obelisks everywhere. So why did they build that? Now, there's a reason why I'm telling you these guys all this story. We're gonna go back to a particular point in the story here. Let us see. We'll go back to Genesis chapter 11. All right. If you follow me up to this point, I've laid the foundation for what I'm gonna say next. Okay. Now here's what I want to tell you guys next. All right. Now normally historians tell you that the civilizations, or that life started in Africa. All right. We all believe that. We've come to the point in which they've all accepted that life starts in Africa. All right. So if life started in Africa, let me just show you, so it doesn't seem like I'm talking. So I'm just gonna pull up some documents, some website. Like this one says here, Evolution World Tour, the Cradle of Humankind, South Africa. They all believe it's in South Africa. It doesn't matter. Sorry, they all believe it's in Africa. It doesn't matter what place, because I know the cradle of civilization is definitely not in South Africa, as I'm going to show you in a quick minute. But I just want to show you some of the stuff that these guys actually have come to terms. Even the white supremacist Vatican does accept the fact that civilization, or the world, started in Africa. So the question that you have to ask now is, when did it start? It started with Noah, because the world before the time of Noah was wiped out. So the civilization of the world started with Noah. Okay. Now let me show you another link here, another website. You can always pause the video at any point in time and copy out the links, like this one right here, and go read up. And I'll show you another website here. It says Cradle of Humankind. Have you ever wondered where we human beings came from? What led to this evolutionary revolution? I don't want to. It's just nonsense. There's no such thing as evolutionary revolution. So, but here's a website that you can actually go read up, the Cradle of Human Civilization. They all say it's Africa, and like another one right here. Pause the video, copy out the link. It says, where is the birthplace of humankind? South Africa. And is Africa both lay claims? I mean, they can lie about that, because it's been proven so much obvious, like real science, how Africa became the cradle of humankind. A fossil discovery in 1924 revolutionized the search for human ancestors, leading scientists to Africa. So if they all agree that, it was some shape or form that civilization started in Africa. But we'll get back to that story later on, because I still want to continue on. So the question I want to pose now is, if civilization started in Africa, or the world, as they say the oldest human beings came from Africa, and from then they spread out to the whole wide world. So if they say that, then that would automatically mean that the Neanderthal that the white supremacy says, or says that white people have Neanderthal genes, would have come from Africa as well. Does it make sense? So the Neanderthal, if it does exist, which is actual, I know it's fabricated, would also mean it would have come from a black man, because if civilization came from Africa and everybody came from Africa, that means the Neanderthal should have also come out from Africa in a black person, evolved, or whatever the case, as they might say. True. So why would we necessarily now think, why would they pass this information and make people think that white people are different from everybody else? Because if civilization started from Africa, then Neanderthal would have come from Africans. Make sense? Okay, I just wanted to throw that out there before I say the next thing. So now the reason I'm saying all this is because the white supremacist Vatican wants to make people believe that they brought civilization so to the world. So for example, if you go to some places in, like, let's say Africa, and you see people walking around and wearing no clothes, they say they are not civilized. Okay, And it seems like, people in the Western world are more civilized than people from the rest of the world. So all this that I'm telling you is trying to make you understand something. And so I dive in from here. Okay. So we read in this particular portion that the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Okay. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime and had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven. Showing you right there and then that the world is flat. Because if you were spinning around at 1,000 miles per hour through space, now tell me, would you be building a tower to reach the top of heaven? Because if we're spinning around, okay, at 1,000 miles per hour through space, there is no actual physical top of heaven. All you have is just a vacuum. Make sense? Okay, let me keep reading to understand now, make you understand one more thing. Now, the next portion of the Bible that I'm still laying a foundation. I'm still trying to tell you a story. You should read Genesis chapter number 10 and read from verse 29. It says, And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. So let me play a small video clip for you to see what I mean right here in the earth was being divided, because I'm still laying the foundation right here. Remember, I said that the earth was this one land mass, okay? One huge land mass. There was no continents, all right? I'm gonna show you another picture which shows you how this earth divided. So here's the picture I want to show you. So you can see it's one landmass right here. Okay, all of it one landmass. Now forget about that, and it's spreading and spreading until we have the continents, the so-called continents of Africa, North America, South America, and the rest. Can you see that right there? It's spreading again. All right, spreading again. Let's see how it spreads. The continents parted. Okay. All right, so you've seen that. So that goes to confirm right here what the Bible says on that in those days, right, was the earth divided. Now let me come back here and make you understand what I'm saying. So I talked about the fact that, the white supremacist Vatican makes us believe that, and the historians in general, even your history books tell you that people started from Africa, right, and spread out into the world and colonized the world. Okay, so let me bring up that picture again. Let me bring up this particular old picture in which the earth is of one mass. Now here's what I want you to understand. Okay, so the Bible here says that the whole earth was of one language, and the people decided to build a tower onto heaven to reach the top of heaven. Okay, so now you have to understand that if you're building a tower, it's not everybody that's going to be building. There are people who are going to be organized into like rearing animals so that they can build. There are people who are going to be organized as doctors. There are people who are going to be organized as nurses. There are people who are going to be organized into architects. There are people who are going to be designed as to masters to see other over people. So you have to have a whole organization, because, for example, let's just take a typical example. If you're building a house, or let's say all the companies that build, let's say, for example, you're building a skyscraper. You've seen how skyscrapers is. It's not everybody in the construction part that's building. That means that not everybody who's working on that building is actually building the skyscraper or constructing it, because you have architects, right? You have structural engineers. You have people who are on standby in case anybody gets hurt. Does it make sense what I'm saying? There are people who bring you food to eat. Does it make sense? So let's think about this kind of structure. So if you're building let's say these people right here, the whole earth is of one language. and they're built, and they're giants. Remember that. That's why I was laying all that foundation. There are giants. There are giants. And the whole earth is of one mass like this. And people are around here, because I know the spot of that Tower of Babel was in Africa. Remember that, okay? Because I already showed you that the whole world agrees that civilization started in Africa, all right? So that means the Tower of Babel was in Africa. It's not in Turkey, as they tell you. It's in Africa, all right? Okay, so, and I know the exact region it was, and I'll show you that later on. So now, I'm not saying I have facts on this. It's just my thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna show you facts on how I have my thoughts that is in Africa. Okay, so now what happens is this: if you're building a tower unto heaven, and the whole earth, and that everybody is in this has only one job. That means making sure that the construction of this tower reaches heaven. So you're gonna have people divided or trained to grow the food to feed the community. People are gonna be there, to the actual builders themselves, the architect, the masters who see other people, and you have the king, who was Nimrod at that point in time, orchestrating everything. Okay? So now, as the story goes, God comes down and sees, and because the Bible actually says here, as you can see, and the Lord came down to see the city that the men were building. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one. You can read the story, because I'm not going to read too much into it. And the Lord came down to see the city and said, oh wow, these people are actually going to build this thing to reach the top of heaven. I can't let them do this, because this is not what I asked them to do. So I am gonna confuse their language, so they don't understand each other. So let me give you a typical example of the skyscraper now. Let's say, as I talked about, people are building the skyscraper. You have the lawyers, you have the nurses, the people who are on standby, you have people who bring food, you have the actual structural engineers, the architects, and the people who build, the drivers who ferry people from one spot to another and move things. And let's say, for example, that these people, all right, can't understand themselves anymore. So if I wanted to bring you food so that you could eat and continue building, and you couldn't understand what type of food I was bringing because we couldn't understand ourselves anymore, I would end up not supposed to be eating what I'm not supposed to be eating, or not eating right. So I'm not gonna build. So the structural engineer is gonna talk to the architect, and they don't understand each other. The master, or the person who's in the field growing the crops, is going to talk to one another, and they don't understand each other. So what do you think happened? These people scattered. So you have to understand that the whole earth, right? The Bible says that the whole earth was of one language. So that means at the point in time that God, right, decided to give these people different languages to confuse the tongues, right? Someone would have been here in America, giants, all right, walking or whatever it might be, right, to bring food. Maybe there was a field right here. Maybe there was another field planting food, because remember, these people are designed into camps, all right, or designed or organized into camps so that they can be effective. The builders will build, the people who plant the crops and feed the community so they can continue building, the architects, all right, who had the knowledge of building and other stuff, and all the people will be all around here. So when God confused the language of these people, so the person who was here, who was supposed to journey or plant the crops and bring the food down here, doesn't understand how to communicate anymore with the person over here who's supposed to ferry the food down. So what do you think happened? People got stuck, right? So if you had only the knowledge of planting crops, you got stuck around somewhere here. I'm just giving you a typical example because they were scattered all over the place. If you had the knowledge of fishing, that means you fished. Fishing was what you were organized into. You got stuck in your own fishing place. You couldn't talk to the next person because the person could understand your language. So if you're the one molding blocks on mortar, you got stuck. You couldn't tell the person who was supposed to bring water and the right amount of mortar for you or whatever, the sand mixers, you got stuck. And now because you're stuck, everybody is now separated on different places. So that's how certain people have remained isolated for so long. And maybe all they had on was their goat skin, or they were walking around nude. All right? The confusion of the languages came and they were stuck with the knowledge that they had. Does it make sense what I'm saying? So when the earth started splitting, according to this picture, as you see here, all right, which is going to play in a second, I hope it plays. As the earth started splitting like this, so if you were over here, you got stuck over there. So there was no such thing as people moving all the way out of Africa into other lands. You just got stuck wherever you were during when the earth split after God had confused the language, because that's exactly what happened. So it wasn't people moving from Africa into other lands. It was more like you got stuck when the continent separated with the confusion of tongues. So that's why you will see certain civilizations, right, remain in that state different from other people, because they got stuck with the only knowledge they had and they stayed there. So if you only knew how to fish, you got stuck and the only thing you knew how to do was fish. So some people who had the knowledge of everything, because there are people who would have had the knowledge of everything in the building of this Tower of Babel. They would have understand fishing and all that. Some people of them got stuck, and those are the people who ruled and are still ruling the world because they had all that knowledge. Does it make sense? So that's what I wanted to explain to you before I go into a deeper explanation of something else. So let me just pause and recollect my thoughts, then I'll go from there. So what I want to show you is why I know for a fact, okay, that the Tower of Babel and that Noah was in Africa. All right. It's not in Turkey. That whole nonsense about Noah starting life in Turkey and all that is all nonsense, because the white supremacist Vatican, like I've always said, if they ever tell you something is true or they want to make you think a certain way, most likely the answer is always in the opposite direction. Now, one of the things that I want you to notice is that Africa has been known. I mean, if you go on Google and ask Google where the largest number of languages are in the world, it will probably tell you Asia. But in all truth and honesty, it's actually Africa who has the greatest number of languages. So that means that that goes to show you biblically, because I'm looking at a website here that says linguistic. You can pause the video and copy out the link and go read it yourself right there. It says there all you need. It says here, and there's why does Africa have so many more languages than any other continent? That goes to show you that when the Tower of Babel was right in Africa, because Africa has the most. I'm going to show you some other facts so you can understand what I'm saying. It says this week's guest blog on languages in Africa comes from Louise Taylor, content manager at Tomadies, a professional translation company. She writes content for the Tomadies blog as well as for other sections of the website. Africa is considered to be the most linguistically diverse continent on the world. I'm not going to say planet because there's no such thing as planet, all right? With estimates putting the number of languages spoken as many as 3,000, all right? As of 1998, challenging even the largest translation companies to get to grips with all of them. Because if you go to places like why the white supremacist Vatican always tries to put, because like I've told you, you needed to have watched the part one before you can watch this, that you have to know that white people originated from Asia. I'm not saying that there are no white people. There were no white people around the world, but white people as, and let's say, as they make it out to be an ethnicity or today originated, their origins are in Asia. So that's why they always try to push everything towards Asia, because that's where they came from. Does it make sense? So if they tell you that Asia has the most languages, you have to look at it. The whole of China speaks a form of Mandarin. I mean, Asia, in short, besides Japan and maybe Korea, speak some sort of Mandarin, a dialect. It's not a different language, it's just a dialect, all right? They can still understand themselves. It's the same language, but just the way they make certain words out doesn't make sense. They speak just Mandarin. And then if you go to places like India, so that knocks out the whole idea of them having so many languages, because it's Asia or China that makes up the most population in that part of the world. Does it make sense? So it's Africa that has the most languages, still telling you or showing you for a fact that it is the Bible, that the Bible is actually true. Okay, so that's one of the facts that I'm showing you, that civilization or Noah, all right, was in Africa, was a black man. I'm gonna show you something else. Okay, hold on a second. So in my study, I stumbled upon this article, which says that there is a place in the northeastern part of Niger and Nigeria, around the Chad. Let me see if I can pull up a map. Well, okay, here's the best I can do. You guys can probably understand this. So there is this place, all right, somewhere in the northern eastern part of Niger and Nigeria, which is known as the land of Noah. Now you can pause this video and copy out this article so you can go read. So I'm going to just read from the website so you can actually see what it says here. It says, like I said, Keno Nok Bono is the region where some of Abraham's ancestors lived. Bono means land of Noah. So you can actually go read this up. So that's why when I say that, the white Vatican, the supremacist Vatican, makes you think that the cradle of civilization started in the northeastern. Sorry, did I say northeastern? It started in southern Africa, the cradle of humankind or cradle of civilization. They all want you to make you believe, but in typical, the devil always lying to people. When he tells you one thing, is always the opposite. So when he says South Africa, I say no, it's going to be northeastern Africa, all right, or northwestern Africa, all right, in the opposite direction. And what you find, just like I said, this article actually makes you see that there is a place around this area in Nigeria, and Chad, and the Cameroon, and the Central African Republic, that this part right here was called the land of Noah, as I'm reading to you. So please copy out the website, all right, and go read up on it so you can actually see. Now there's one other thing that makes me know that this is actually true, because I think in what am I saying? Hold on a second. I think in Nigeria right now, there is a lot of conflict going on by some terrorist organizations called Boko Haram, right? Boko Haram, right? And Boko Haram happens to be fighting in that specific portion of the land of Noah, according to this article, which is called Bono. So here is a link of a website, and right here you can pause the video and copy out the link right there and paste it in your browser, and you can read up on. It says here, this particular article says, assessing the multinational joint task force against Boko Haram, all right? And it says here, the multinational joint task force MNJTF, established by the Lake Chad Basin countries to combat Boko Haram, still struggles to demonstrate its effectiveness. Observers also continue to question to what extent. Now, can you see why? I just want you to take note of this. They said Lake Chad Basin countries. So now, here's what's really happening. Those people living in that Lake Chad region, and especially the areas of Niger, Nigeria, Cameroon, and which other country right there am I missing? I've forgotten one country. Central African Republic, I think. All right, those countries right there. All right, are going through a terrorist crisis. Now, why do you think the Vatican has arranged this kind of terror around there? Because, like I said, the Vatican is led by devils and demons. It's because the people around that area historically call that place the land of Noah, like they said in Borno. All right, Borno. And they have some other places that like they call one place, I think, in Nigeria called Keno, which would mean which bears a resemblance to Cain. From Cain you get Kano. And there's another place they call, I think, Keduna. That means it's still part of Cain. So why is all these things happening here? Because you have to know the devil is covering up his tracks. It's covering up the tracks. He's trying to distort history. Because if there's so much fighting going on in that area, the ancient people who lived there, who historically have laid claim to that land and still bear the name, the land of Noah, are going to be moved out. When those people are moved out, that history is going to be lost. Right? So because if the terrorist organizations win, okay, or maybe say the government takes care of it later on, the original people are going to be moved out. So when the area is being rebuilt and people move back in, the history is going to be lost because the language is not going to be the same, because the original people have been displaced and moved out. Because you have you hear it on the news like that there is a crisis in Nigeria of moving people out, or in Niger or Cameroon because of all the Boko Haram thing going on. So that's the devil moving, changing history. Everything there is happening for a reason, trying to cover up the tracks so that people don't know that the land of Noah actually existed in that region, and that is the area in which civilization, the Tower of Babel and everything started. Does it make sense? So that's just why I had to prove to you, to show you that these things are not happening by chance. Okay, so now the next question I want to ask is this, because I've talked about the fact that I do believe I have to actually pull up a picture. Okay, I do believe for a fact that in this area right here, because this is I'm looking at the earth right here from a bird's eye viewpoint. If this is the world at large, that I do believe right here at this center that there is a cover-up going up. Okay, that I believe that there is a mountain in here, because all compasses point north to this direction, the center of the earth. Now, when I thought about it for a second, because I talked about the fact that on one of the videos down here that I do a lot of flying. I'm flying from the United States to Europe and Africa and everything else. That there's always turbulence once you get past this area. It's because I believe that mountain, it's a magnetic mountain, and since the planes that we fly on are made of metal, that's the reason for a lot of the turbulence, because it's being drawn towards that magnetic mountain. Now, here's what I think. Okay, I'm going to say it again in this video. I think that mountain, right, goes all the way to the throne of God in the third heavens. I'm going to show you that with proof from the Bible, as I'm going to read to you, okay, why I think that is the case. Because I'm thinking in normal architectural design, if you're building something, a dome or a flat top, there has to be some pillars supporting it in the middle. Otherwise, it's going to cave in. So somebody might say, okay, but we don't see this pillar. It's because from where we at, we can only see a portion of the sky. We don't see the full sky. Does it make sense? So that means if you're in the United States of America, as right here, all you can see is just the sky above you. You can't see the sky in Africa, right? Does it make sense? So that's why I guess we don't see this pillar right here. And I think this is the pillar that was in the middle of the Garden of Eden, in which the angels, right? Because if you read the Bible says that God placed an angels north, south, and east of the garden so that nobody else might come in. So I think that is what it's right in there. And the elites, the Vatican knows this, but they never say anything about it. And judging by the fact that we have so many obelisks being built, what does that obelisk represent? I'm thinking, because they always say that I think I've heard it before, that they say that it's the needle in the sky. It's a pole. And they call it South Pole. A pole. A pole like you would have a standing pole. So I'm thinking on the North Pole, as they would say, that there is a mountain that reaches into the third heaven where God is. I'm going to show you with facts from the Bible why I think that is. And let me show you right away, because I'm going to read a portion of the Bible just to show you that. So I'm reading from, you can pause the video and actually go look for it. I'm reading from the King James Bible, Isaiah chapter number 14, okay? I'm going to read from verse 12, okay? It says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" So here, Lucifer falls from heaven. I've said in one of my videos that there are three heavens, and that the heaven that we see, the second heaven where the devil resides, is actually where you find the stars at. I've talked about that before on, I think, on the Shakiri video. That's why you need to watch the Shakiri video. It's very, very important. It's a part of this series, okay? Now, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didn't weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. The North Pole. So this is where Satan himself desires to go, into the third heaven, where the top of that mountain is. And it says in the sides of the north, from the North Pole. So that's where that mountain starts and reaches into the third heaven. I'm just showing you with facts from the Bible itself, that I believe that there is a mountain in the middle of the North Pole, and that mountain causes all compasses to point north, and that mountain reaches into the third heaven, and no man can go near it. It's been protected. That's what I'm saying. Is the reason for all the, that's what I believe, is the reason for all the turbulence that you fly across, and that the Vatican knows this, and that's why they hide it from you. So that representation that they have in an obelisk is a representation of that mountain, the needle in the sky that reaches to the third heaven, because it's what the devil desires to do. Does it make sense? Does any of this all make sense? And one thing you have to know, because people always think that Lucifer or Satan is some sort of like serpent being or whatsoever. I want to keep reading this so you can actually see that the devil, Satan himself, is a man, but he's a spiritual man. That means he's not made of flesh and blood. If he saw you, or if you saw him, he would have two hands, two eyes, legs, but he doesn't bleed blood. He may bleed something else. His skin is not made of flesh like ours. It's made of something else. So I'm going to read that. I'm going to show you I'm going to place a link of a document which you guys can read and have a good understanding that that word interpreted serpent in the Bible is interpreted wrongly. It has nothing to do with a snake. It has something to do with a man. So let me keep reading this so you can actually see, because I was trying to answer a comment once with one of our subscribers, and he was saying that they believe in reptilians and all this kind of stuff. That David Icke, David Icke, I think, who I know for a fact works for the Vatican, because he's trying to make you guys believe that there are certain beings that control the world, so you guys don't look at the Vatican and know that the Vatican is controlled by the devil himself. Does it make sense? But let me keep reading this so you can see what I'm saying. It says, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I'll be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth tremble and did shake the kingdoms? Talking about the devil, that he is a man, a spiritual man, not a fleshly man like us. Spiritual in the sense that he's not made of flesh and he doesn't have blood flowing through his veins like we do. Let me show you the article that I wanted you guys to take note. I'm going to put a link of the description of this article, right? The article talks about the translation of the word serpent, that is from the Hebrew word nakash. I'll just read a brief snippet of it, then I'm going to put an article, the link up, so you can actually go and read it for yourself to see that when the Bible talks about the serpent, that it's wrongly misinterpreted as a snake. Eve wasn't talking with no snake. He was talking to a man on his own 2 feet. Okay, let me read that. It says here, the word meaning here, the word here is nakash. Okay, is actually an adjective meaning bright, brazen, as in shiny brass, with the prefix article, the word the in Hebrew. Thus, the word is formed, is just writing Hebrew here and there, a dot, 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 and then to the second letter from the right. When an article is attached, the word is what the word then in the Hebrew text is hanakash. Nakash is pronounced Nakash. So it's saying that the word that is interpreted as a serpent is called Hanakash. Let me continue reading. It says, what is different about this approach is that I view the base word Nakash as an adjective, not a noun. The noun spelled Nakash in Hebrew can mean snake or serpent. So he's saying that the word is Hanakash and not Nakash, okay? Right? Or one who practices of divination. The adjective means bright, brazen, and itself the base word for other nouns in Hebrew like shining brass. Let me keep reading down here. It says, let me read one more stuff in here. I'm going to put up the link for you guys to go read this. So he says, personally, I tend to think that in light of the serpentine appearance of divine beings. So it's saying that serpentine means shining things. All right? Misinterpreted as serpent. Serpentine is different from serpent. All right? It says, what we have in Genesis chapter 3 is wordplay using all the meanings of this, which means Nakash or Hanakash, semantic range. That is, Eve was not talking to a snake. She was speaking to a bright, shining, upright being who was serpentine in appearance and who was trying to bewitch her with her lies. So isn't the word bright, shining being the same thing as Lucifer, bright morning star? So the devil is no snake. He might be snake in his behavior because the snake always is slithery and moving with us, but he's a man. Just like I've showed you from the Bible. He's a man. The Bible clearly says that. Okay, so that's the reason what I think about the obelisk. I just wanted to throw that out there. And then let's dive in to show you some more pictures of ancient people, all right, before they started turning white from the people who were inbreeding. If you've watched the part one already, to know that whiteness is albinism, formed from inbreeding of people inbreeding in amongst themselves in the family. There's a keeping in the family, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to show you some more pictures of that, and then we'll come back and start getting into Derek Hough. Okay, so this article here right here says that India's forgotten African tribe. As usual, when the white supremacist wants to lie, so that people don't understand that we are all black, they always try to make it look like everybody that's black came from Africa. But in natural, these are just the Indian people who had survived, right, the onslaught of the white exotic people who invaded into India, the whole of India, especially the northern part, and were not caught up. All right, that means they maintained themselves. They didn't get caught up and got influenced, or let's say their phenotypes, the genotypes weren't changed. That means a very small number of them survived that onslaught and still have the nappy hair with no albinism of the straightening of the hair. So this, you can actually pause the video right here and go read it up. And it says here, let's just read up how the Vatican lies a lot. They say, let me read the story a little bit, then I'll show you some pictures. It says, the past few months in India have been mired in controversy due to a string of racist and fatal incidents targeting African immigrants living in the country. But what few Indians know is that Africans and Indians are no strangers to each other. That at least 20,000 of an African origin ethnic tribe who have been living in near total obscurity in India for centuries. Can you believe the nonsense these people tell you? the lies that they tell you. They tell you these people are African, but they've been living for 20,000 what? They've been living for India for centuries? Doesn't make no sense. And here is the pictures that they show you. I'm gonna slide just to show you some of the pictures. You can still see they still have the nappy here. They're Indians, right? From this particular page. Let me show you if I can show you some more pictures. It's loading. Look at that. Nappy hair. They are not Africans. They are Indians. So like I've explained to you the story. When the earth got split up after the flood, when the earth got split up after Babylon, all right, and people got caught up wherever they were and couldn't travel back and forth to the building of the Tower of Babel. That's just where they were. Black with nappy hair, people and different features. So these are Indians, all right? Indians, nappy hair like Africans, but they are not Africans. And the word, like I'll explain, if you've watched the part 1 already, I already told you that India means black. Okay? These people didn't get caught up. That means the exotic invaders who travel all the way from Asia, invaded the world, even down to Europe, and Europe lost its color and everything else. These people didn't get caught up in that. So they still maintain their ethnicity. You can still see black people, they look like Africans, but they are not. This is just the way they look. All right? Look at that. Indians, black. Let me actually pull up the picture properly. But you can pause the video, copy out the website right there, and go read up on it and see what I mean. But let me pull up the pictures myself. Now, here is a typical Indian man, but this one has been caught up. Or maybe it's not just caught up with the exotic invaders, because if like I've said in the part 1 already, if your great forefathers or grandfathers were inbreeding among themselves, that's what causes albinism. And this one, albinism causes the straining of the hair. I don't know if you guys remember that. Let me just pull up another picture so you guys can actually refresh your memories on that. Here, so this is what happens. So when someone, a child or your great grandfathers have been inbreeding among themselves, it causes albinism, and that straightens out the hair. As you can see, this is a black boy from deep inside the jungles of Africa with straight hair. It's blonde also. So when albinism gets in the hair, it straightens out the hair. All right. Depending on the type of then eumelanin or femelanin you have, then it can give some color to the hair. But this is a typical Indian man. The albinism in his hair, that's why it's straight. But he still has, you know, the black color of a black man. All right, in Africa. So let me continue with some of the pictures. So these pictures that I was showing you earlier from the people before in India, you can see nappy hair still. That means the albinism. They weren't inbreeding among themselves, even though they stayed in isolation for so long in India. They're still black, nappy hair, people. All right. These are Indians, but the world, but BBC wants you to believe that they are Africans. All right. No, they are not. They are Indians, indigenous, aboriginal to India. They've lived in isolation and they survived that. So this is how the Indians really looked before that invasion. These are the only people surviving species of them that survive. All right. You can go read that article. You know, it's still black with nappy hair, looking like that. I'm going to show you some more pictures of people way back in the day to show you what they looked like and how they look more differently now. So we'll start the next couple of slides now. Okay. So this next slides are Asians, right? Asians way back. As you can see, the pictures of black or white. These are what Asians used to look like. You can still see the nappy hair. Can you see that? These are Asians, olden days Asians, before they got changed into the white Asians with straight hair that we have today. These are olden day Asians, and look at them, nappy hair. Let me show you another slide. These are olden Asians, Chinese. You can see right there, nappy hair. Can you see that? Nappy hair Asians. All right. This is from way back in the day. Remember the dates before we started this video, 1751. These guys were still looking this way before the white Asiatics who invaded the whole world, invaded the Vatican and everything else, and are running the world right now. Changed people to look the way they were, breeding people for them themselves. We'll show you some more pictures. Look at that. Asians with nappy hair. Look at that. Right? Olden days Asians. Look at them still. Nappy, dreaded hair. Can you see that? All right. Can you see that? Look at that again. Take a good look. Look at that. All right. Next, I'm going to show you some other slides of some olden days people to see how they looked before, after 1751, in which Benjamin Franklin said that he wished that they would increase their whiteness. All right. Now, these were the last surviving Arabians. All right. As you can see, this picture was taken in 1932, but Arabians, sorry to say. These were the last surviving Arabians before they were totally whited out like the people that right now you see in the northern part of Africa, Saudi Arabia, and everything else. This is how they looked. As you can see, they still have nappy hair, right? Nappy black hair. Can you see that right there? All right, nappy black hair, Arabians. They say Bani Rashid, Rashada, Rashida, main Hijaz region from Arabia, Felix across the empty quarter of Arabia by Bertram Thomas, 1932. There are still some Arabians looking like this now, the original Arabians who have maintained their nappy hair, as you can see right here. All right, so next slide to show you some more olden days pictures of people way back in the day and how they used to look. So this slide here is because I just want to show you what Ethiopians look like, because I think I remember a guy arguing with me when I told him that Amos chapter 9 verse 7 says that God likens the Hebrews to Ethiopians. All right, he likens them to Ethiopians. I just wanted to show you how the old Ethiopian lineage of their kings, which died with, I think, is it Gabriel Selassie or Haile Selassie? This is how they looked, and look at nappy hair, and look at how the clothes. They still look this way, but I just wanted to show you what their kingly lines looked like, so you could understand how the maybe the Hebrews would have looked. Okay, so that's all I wanted you guys to note. I'm going to show you some other slides of some olden days pictures. I can see the pictures are all black and white. Old days pictures way back in the day. Okay, when there was no color and photography wasn't common. And who do you think took these pictures? I'm guarantee you it wasn't the white supremacist Vatican yet. Just saying that. So let me keep showing you some more slides. So this particular slide is showing you how Indonesians, the people from Indonesia, way back in the day used to look before the white Asiatic supremacist Vatican invaded and started changing the color of their skin to some of them still have this nappy hair, but you won't find them in the news because the Vatican doesn't want you to know that, you know, we're all black. They want to maintain the system of their own white supremacy over everybody else. This picture was taken, I can't really make out the year, but you can see right there that is Indonesia, right? Indonesia is very old. All right, just showing you. All right, let's pull up some more pictures. Look at Indonesian right here. And who do you think is right there? Who went around making these people white? Well, don't worry, you'll understand sooner or later. Look at the Indonesians, still nappy hair. Can you see that? Nappy hair, like they would say Africans would have. Okay, some more slides. Look at Indonesian women having the tight curl rows that Africans usually have, but you can still say they are still looking like a typical African person. Look at the nose. Look at the pictures. It says young women mixed race of blacks and Mongolians in Indonesia. There are 1 century. I don't know what it means, but these pictures are really old. So take a good look. Still having curly, tight curls, nappy hair. All right. All right. I'll show you some other slides, and we keep moving we'll move from Indonesia to another spot. And here's Malaysia. All right. Another country, Malaysia, and you can see black nappy afro hair. This is how Malaysians used to look. Can you take a look at that? This is how Malaysians used to look. All right, another picture right here. Look at that. Look at that. All nappy hair. Can you see that? Nappy, like African. They would say African hair, but look at that. Right? All nappy hair. And this picture here says has left the Negrito of Malaysia. Has the right, the King Sisowat of Cambodia. He was obviously a half-bit of black and Mongolian. Can you see that? They were all black. All these people around the world, just like Benjamin Franklin had said, they were all black. Olden days pictures. You can see, like looking like Africans, but they are in from Indonesia. As you can see here, or Malaysia, sorry. All right, next slide, and let's show you some more places around. And this is a picture of olden days people from Philippines. You can still see black with nappy hair. Can you see that? So even the Filipinos were also black with nappy hair. But the white Asiatics, when they invaded and like Benjamin Franklin said, wanted to increase the whiteness, what did they do? You get rid of the males, impregnate the females, and let them inbreed amongst themselves and not marry onto other people. Because you have to understand, when albinism gets in the hair of anybody, the only way the next generation can avoid being born with straight hair is to marry another black person, a black person with nappy hair. Because if you go back into your own people and marry the same people with straight hair, you'll never have nappy hair again. Except the person had some sort. You will never have nappy hair again. It's gone. The hair is always there's always gonna be albinism in the hair. But look at this. Look at the inhabitants of the Philippines. They still had nappy hair. Some more pictures for you. Look at that. These are current blacks in the Philippines, but you'll never see these people shown on TV. You will see the Philippines with straight hair, but you can see this one still has a little bit the straight hair, a little bit of albinism is in there, but you can see the rest. It's all nappy hair from the Philippines. Current blacks in Philippines, right? You never see them in the pictures. They still look like Africans, but they're from the Philippines. Some more pictures. Look at that. An olden day Philippine man. Look at the nappiness in the hair. Right? Olden days pictures. Look at that. Philippines. And they would say he's from Africa. No, we're not all. They are not all from Africa, okay? We're not all from Africa. Some more pictures. Look at that. Another Filipino right there. Nappy hair. This one has a little bit of albinism in the hair because it's straightening out, but you can still see nappy hair from the Philippines. Olden days pictures. I apologize if some of the pictures contain some sort of nudity. I just want you guys to know and see the hair. It's olden days, okay? All right. We go to some next slides of some more other nations for you. And the next people I'm trying to show you are the Japanese. I'm going to show you the ancient Japanese, their ancestors, right? Because this one is because like I said, the whole case of albinism because I'm not saying albinism is everywhere, but people making it out to be an ethnicity or a color designation started in Asia. And as you can see right here, this olden days Asian, this one still has a little bit of nappiness in it, but the albinism is already getting into the hair. These are olden day Japanese Asians. I'll show you the ancient, the ancestors who have remained unchanged till today. They live in the Andaman Islands, okay? Look at that again. See? The article reads here, we have in our possession this image of Ainu, because it is believed that the Japanese people are Ainu. All right, they coined that term for the ethnicity of the Asians from that area, Ainu. And I'll show you the Ainu from the Andaman Islands, the ancestor of these Japanese, and how they looked before they started inbreeding among themselves, and albinism started to be called as a race. I know of Japan that we have not been able to be authenticated by reliable sources. We have not. This thus said, the clothes, the hairstyles, the attitudes are clearly identical to all the authentic images of the Ainu that we have seen. We can say that this image is authentic. It is thus seen that there are at least 4 blacks in this image. The man in the bottom right appears to be the most African of all. But you can still see they still have some nappy hair. All right? See that? Okay, let me give you some more slides, and then we'll go to showing you the people from the Andaman Islands who are actually the Ainu, the ancestors of the Japanese right here, as we can taking a look at. Let me do that right away. So before I pull up the picture, so I just want you to understand where the Andaman Islands are, who are the ancestors of the Japanese, who haven't changed. They're the people who the Japanese are from. Okay, now if you can pause the video at any time and go look up the wiki page on the Andaman Islands. It says here the Andamans. I just want to see show you how the white supremacist Vatican lies to you. I mean, the truth is right in front of your eyes, but you can't see it. It says the Andamans are theorized to be a key stepping stone in a great coastal migration of humans from Africa. Via the Arabian Peninsula along the coastal regions of the Indian mainland and towards Southeast Asia, Japan, and Oceania. So they all admit that the Andamans, right, are the people from Africa, right? black, that means the Asians, Indian, and everybody else were black. Okay, let me show you where the Andaman Islands are. So here's where the Andaman Islands are. As you can see here, this is Japan right here. This is North and South Korea. And this is mainland China. This is India on the left. So the Andaman Islands are right here. Okay, so let me pull up the pictures to show you what they look like, so you can actually see that the Japanese can relate to them and know that these were their ancestors. Okay, hold on a second. So here is a picture of the people from the Andaman Islands. Now this is a current, because the Andaman Islands is one of those people, one of those islands that has remained in its aboriginal state. It's had a lot of European influx, or white supremacist Vatican influx, but not that much. As you can see here, it says, let me read the story. It says, aside from the smooth-haired blacks who are pariahs in India and suffer cruelty from racism, there are the Jarawas that you see that live in the Andaman Islands, all in the south of India. This people is on the verge of extinction. As you can see, they look like the Japanese, the current modern Japanese today, just by their features. Can you see that? Let me show you some more pictures so you can see that. Look at that. Here is them again. Andaman Islands. As you can see, they look Japanese, don't they? But with nappy hair. The ancestors of the Japanese, the Koreans, and the people around that area. Look at them right here. Olden days picture with nappy hair. Some more pictures again. Now here's a current Andamanian. Albinism has gotten in the hair. It's straightened out. I'll show you another picture of another one of them, and that's it. Another one, albinism in the hair. But they're all from these people right here. These are the people who are almost extinct because they still live in the bushes. They haven't come out. All right. Let me show you one more pictures. And look at that again. These are people from Andaman Islands. Look at them. They still look like the Japanese that we see today. Right? Look at them again here. Don't they look Japanese? These are the current remaining surviving people on the Andaman Islands who haven't gone through that racial structure in which they are trying to make them change. Just take a look at that and don't tell me that these are not Japanese. Ancient ancestors of the Japanese still live in the Andaman Islands unchanged. All right, some more slides for you. So the next stop right now is in Hawaii, and look at the Hawaiian people and how they used to look. The nappiness is still in the hair. It's not straight. All right, another picture. Look at them. All Hawaiians. Can you see that? All nappy hair. Sorry if there's some nudity in the pictures, but I'm just trying to show you stuff. Nappy hair. Nappy, 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 nappy hair. Can you see that? All Hawaiians. But where are they today? They all have straight hair, right? Most of them. Take a good look at that picture again. All Hawaiians. See that? See that? Okay. All right. Some more pictures for you. And look at this. These are the people from, let me see which country that I'm pulling this from, because I think I made a, hold on a second. This is from Samoa. These people are from Samoa. Look at the Samoans here and how they used to look. Can you see that? Still nappy, nappy hair. Samoa. This is Samoans right here. All right. Some more pictures. Look at that. Look at that. Fuja Samoan girl. Oh, picture of how Samoans used to look. I'm sorry if it's nudity in the picture, but I just have to show you that. Look at that nappy hair still. But what do the Samoans look like today? What do they look like? Look at another Samoan right here. Look at that. Look at that. A high chief with headdress, service 30 Samoa. Can you see that? Can you see that? So they are not from Africa. They are indigenous. Just like that's why I had to show you that whole, lay that whole foundation to show you how it happened. All right, that when the earth split and after the Tower of Babel and the confusion of languages, you were stuck wherever you were with whatsoever knowledge you had, and that's all you had. Okay, and now showing you that that's how whatsoever. That's why you, for example, you have a pyramid in let's say in Mexico or whatever, because whosoever was building a pyramid over in sorry.